you. And before that, we're going to record. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody watching this viewing later on too. My name is Big Raksak Gongseng. My pronouns are she or they. I am TCG's Assistant Director of Grant Making Programs. I'm calling from Madrid, Spain today, and I'm a brown-skinned Thai immigrant with black hair and purple glasses, wearing a maroon tank top, standing in front of a white wall. Today, my colleague Omar is also here to support with the logistics, so I'll pass the floor on to Omar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Omar Mardini. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the board liaison for the board of directors here at TCG. I am calling from the ancestral home and stolen land of the Canarsie people and the Munsee Lenape people, which is modern day Brooklyn. I am Mediterranean-skinned Lebanese immigrant with black hair and clear glasses in front of a white wall, and I'm wearing a green long sleeve shirt. It's so nice to meet you all, and I'll pass it back to Big.
Thank you, Omar. Thanks for your help. Before we get started, I'm not sure if Amelia, you would like to reintroduce yourself one more time, just so that it's in the recording. Do you want to do that?
Sure. Really quick. Excuse me. Hi, I'm Amelia Cachapero, she, her, xia. I'm TCG's Director of Grant Making Programs, and I'm calling in from the stolen land of the Lenape people, also known as Manhattan. Big, go back to you.
Thank you, Amelia. So before we start, we'll take a moment to offer our respects to the many lands on which we gather, and to honor the traditional stewards of these lands. If you have a land acknowledgement as part of your personal practice, we invite you to share them in the chat right now. While land acknowledgement is a positive first step, it's also important to go beyond that. Perhaps by asking yourself, how are you using your privilege to support Indigenous people and communities? How are you giving back to the land you are on? Thank you. I'll now pass the mic to Amelia.
Great, thanks, Big. Big and I are working together to administer the Willa Kim Costume Design Scholarship Program with support from the Estate of Willa Kim. Hopefully you all know who Willa is. If you don't, please Google her, an amazing icon and barrier-breaking costume designer with a long history of achievement. We're going to try to get to as many questions today as we possibly can, but please know that at any time you can email us, well, particularly Big, at rkonseng@tcg.org, and you see it right there on the slide. And we will get back to you as quickly as possible. So today's call is designed to provide you with an overview of the Costume Design Scholarship Program, and also to help you prepare your application, and hopefully to demystify the process a little bit. We understand that many of you may be applying for a TCG program for the very first time, or a grant program at all for the first time. And as we do our best to demystify and clarify the process, we're going to also be working to make applying for this program as streamlined as possible with a quick turnaround. Next, I'm going to actually pass it over to Big to talk about a few of the mechanics for this program, or for this call.
Thank you. So today's call will last about 30 to 45 minutes and will be recorded. Of course, we're recording for later viewing on TCG's website and also on YouTube. We will pause from time to time to respond to questions submitted to us on Zoom chat. So feel free to put your questions in this chat if you have any, and we'll get to that. You may not know about TCG's work, and we're going to start by talking about TCG's mission and values as it relates to this program. So let me give you some background about us. Yes, so let's go to the next slide. Thank you, Omar. So in 2021, TCG celebrated our 60th anniversary. And after a year-long strategic planning process, we crafted a reframed mission. So our new mission is to lead for a just and thriving theater ecology. With that, we have a commitment to centering Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC, in our programs and services and partnerships. We are using the term BIPOC for solidarity purposes, representing a multiplicity of racial, ethnic, and cultural groups. We acknowledge that the term BIPOC is imperfect, not universally embraced by many who identify as people of color and or people of the global majority. And that language is in a constant state of reimagination and redefinition. For reference, Black, Indigenous, and people of color represents over 80% of the global population. It is possible that during this program, the language may shift again. So as a service organization, TCG has a core membership of over 500 theaters and affiliate organizations nationwide. We have membership categories for universities, funders, international, and other nonprofit organizations, and over 12,000 individual members. You can read more about our member benefits and services on our website under the membership tab. You may see the link in the chat for the membership. And then I'll pass the mic back on to Amelia to go over TCG programs and services.
Okay. So the core elements of our programs and services are networking and knowledge building, and that includes our conferences and events. In next week, actually, on the 7th of November, we're going to have our new BIPOC on the Block Affinity Space, which is really a space for folks who have recently started work at a predominantly white institution and want to come together in an affinity space to clinic problems, talk through experiences, and basically create community. Also in November, on the 11th, we're going to be doing a retreat specifically for trustees, boards of directors, and it's called Governance at the Crossroads, a strategic retreat. And information for both of those are on our website, and maybe later on, or if Omar has a moment, we'll be able to drop that in the chat for you. TCG also does quite a lot of surveys and research specifically about the theater field and quite often about the larger arts field as well. We recently did a study about the impact of COVID on our field, and you'll see a lot of that information in American Theater Magazine that I'll mention in a second. Grant making is another bucket. In addition to this program, we also administer our Thrive program, which is a program for theaters of color providing unrestricted general operating support, plus a learning component. We recently had a freelancers relief fund specifically for designers. We also have a Fox Foundation Resident Actor Fellowship for actors at all points in their career, and then also the Alan Schneider Directing Award. We do a lot of professional development programs and work with rising leaders of color and other leaders in all areas of the field, administrative, artistic, production, and education, and any of the other intersections therein. Our last bucket, but certainly not least, is publishing. Actually, not quite the last, but it is maybe the biggest. You may not know that American Theater Magazine is a TCG publication, and it's now published online with special issues and features. TCG is also the largest not-for-profit publisher in the US. You'll see their books online on Amazon and in a brick and mortar bookstore. Our authors have been honored with many, many Pulitzer Prizes, Tony Awards, Nobel Prize for Literature, and countless other OBs, which is the Off-Broadway Awards, Drama Desk Awards, and other national and international prizes. Recent publications include plays by Michael R. Jackson, Strange Loop. If you haven't seen it or read it, please do. Heidi Schreck, Jeremy O. Harris, The Kilroy's List, Tony Kushner, Susan Laurie Parks, and more. Our publishing is unique in that we promise to publish the full body of work of our writers, and we also keep the publications in print in perpetuity. Another bucket of our work is our national and global leadership and advocacy. TCG works with our sister service organizations in other arts disciplines, and we co-founded the Performing Arts Alliance, advocating for the arts on a national level. TCG is also the home of the U.S. Center for the International Theater Institute, and together with the Laboratory for Global Performance and Politics, which is housed at Georgetown in DC, administers the International Theater Institute US, and our activities includes World Theater Day coming up March 27th, which is not too far away, all things considered. We also have the climate action community. So CAM is an open circle community for all theater people who are committed to climate environmental justice. The community supports peer-driven learning, accountability, and ultimately action. Participants ask questions, share resources, and take collective action, both within the theater sector and our broader world and field. I believe Omar's putting a link where you can sign up for that because those are monthly, and love to see y'all on that. Big, want to take it from here?
Thank you, Amelia. Yeah, that's the majority of what TCG does here. Now, specifically for the Willa Kim program. So the goal of the Willa Kim Costume Design Scholarship Program is to bolster the recipients' ability to communicate their artistic vision effectively through technical skills in hand drawing and painting. The recipients will receive up to $7,500 to be used towards tuition, registration fees, supplies, and/or travel expenses over 1 year period between January 30th, 2023 until January 31st, 2024. International study is also allowable, but the scholarship will only cover tuition, registration fees, supplies, and/or travel expenses only. The recipient scholarship activities may take place while they are on break from their university, college, or training program as well. And just a quick note, all of TCG grant programs are living and breathing programs. What do we mean by that? It means that we are constantly evaluating their impact on the field, and we make course adjustments along the way whenever necessary, particularly as our field emerges from the pandemic. So I'll pass to Amelia for eligibility.
Great. There we go. See it on the screen there. So this program is specifically created for students who are enrolled and in good standing at a college, university, or professional training program at the beginning of the scholarship period, which is June 30th, 2023. Applicants who are enrolled in a related program such as fashion design or other architecture, other disciplines are welcome as long as they can demonstrate commitment to working as a costume designer. We don't require proof of citizenship, but applicants must be able to receive taxable income in the US. Now, the program defines theater in its broadest terms, including dramatic theater, music theater, physical theater, object theater. Artists who are working in multidisciplinary ways are eligible, but again, must demonstrate a strong theatrical through line in their costume design work. Big?
Now, talking about selection criteria. So this program uses a peer panel process. So we will have an independent panel of theater leaders who are working professionals and knowledgeable about the field of theater, and in particular, costume design. Applications will be reviewed based on the following and must demonstrate: first, artistry, creativity, and skills. Second, evidence of commitment, ability, and a clear plan to improve the applicant's skills as a costume designer. Third, degree to which the scholarship can contribute to the applicant's artistic growth. Next would be appropriateness of the proposed budget and scholarship activities, and that includes travel as well if you are requesting it. Next is potential for future excellence as a professional costume designer. And last but not least, commitment to a career in the not-for-profit professional theater field in the US. There will be finalist interviews as part of this selection process as well. And a note that I really would like to get out is as you respond to the narrative questions in the application form, which we're going to talk about in a sec, do not get caught up in grant speak. What does that mean? It means trying not to write what you think we want to hear. So try to let your personal voice come through, especially your personal artistic voice, right, as a costume designer. The panelists will likely not know you or your work, so it's really important for them to have a clear sense of who you are as a costume designer and what your work is all about. So now I think maybe let me check in the chat if there's any question, Amelia and Omar. It seems like there's no question yet. Yeah, so we can keep going, but I would love to invite folks in the room too. If you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat and we'll keep checking in on that. So Amelia?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Big. A couple of things to underscore, really just what Big said about letting your personal voice come through, because the selection panel wants to see you as an artist and you as a whole person, which is why, and we'll talk about this in a sec, or Big will, when you're putting together your portfolio materials, we're asking that you consider sending in a variety of materials, not just necessarily sketches or models, or sketches necessarily. And the spirit of the program, I do want to mention, because I don't think we've really said that yet, that this is created in honor of Willa Kim, and she specifically felt that there needed to be some training and opportunity for designers to improve the way they communicate with directors and their other collaborators. And very often that communication happens through the actual sketching of materials. It can certainly also include verbal communication too. So we could talk about that a little bit if you want to know about what some of the other recipients have done. But anything that really helps you improve the way that you can communicate your ideas through to your collaborators. And also with the application process, don't get so caught up in thinking that you have to come up with the perfect words for it. You could also send us an audio. You could send us a video. There are a variety of ways to get the material to us. And if you feel that you really want staff's more specific help on answering some of the questions, we're happy to do that and work with you individually. We don't want the application process to be a barrier anyway. I kind of was just vamping in case there were any questions. Are we good, Big, or should I keep going?
I don't see any question yet. I think you can keep going for now, but I'll let you know if there's one.
Okay, cool. So you see here the timeline. So the application deadline is firm, particularly because we want to keep on schedule so that we can hold to that earliest start date, which is January 30th. And it does take some time to process applications. So we would need the online application, recommendations, and your academic advisor's support all on the same date, on December 1st. We will be notifying all applicants, not just those selected, during the week of January 23rd. The earliest start date you could see is January 30th. There's a year's period in which to complete the activities that goes until the end of January 2024. Big?
Thank you, Amelia. I see there's a question, so I'll pause to take question for now. So the question in the chat reads, can you please expand on what you are looking for in regards to a demonstration of commitment to a career in the not-for-profit theater?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, given, applicants for this program are going to be earlier in their career, right? And not necessarily a 20-year veteran of the field, even though a lot of folks will have some professional experience before going to a grad school or enrolling in a program. Essentially, if all of your work to date has been, say, in film versus theater, then I think the selection panel would wonder, so, well, what is the commitment to a career in theater? We certainly acknowledge that particularly nowadays, designers don't stay within one discipline or one medium. So costume designers are working not only in theater, but in opera, in dance, in film, in television, in media. But the panel will want to see that there is some through line of having theater work throughout. Hope that makes sense to you. Or let us know if it doesn't, and can elaborate more.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's from the person who asked the question. So yes, so feel free to keep shooting, shooting questions at us more and more. But for now, I'll move on to the application for now. So yes, so to apply, you need to submit 5 items. So first, application form. You must submit the form along with other required documents through the TCG online application portal only. Do not mail it in because I'm not there to receive it. It goes without saying, though, that applications must be developed and submitted by the applicant, not someone else. I will show you the application. We can talk about the application portal in 1 second. So that's number 1. Number 2, resume or CV. So you will be asked to upload a 2-page resume or CV on the application portal. Additional pages will not be forwarded to the panel. Number 3, portfolio. So you will be asked to upload a portfolio on the application portal. Physical items will not be accepted. Just want to emphasize that. You will be asked to submit work from at least 2 projects that express your creative process from inspiration through finished products. Although you can submit materials from a project that has not yet been produced, at least 1 project, though, must have been fully realized. In addition to the 2 required projects, you can submit 2 more projects. So the additional projects, number 3 and number 4, may include examples of your artistic work outside of costume design. Whether it be 2D or 3D in any medium, from drawing, painting, figure drawing, illustration, embroidery, sculpture, pottery, to photography, all work for costume design is welcome. Note that the project you mentioned in question 3 in the application form must be in the portfolio. So when you go through the application, you see the narratives, right? We have 8 narratives. So number 3, it will ask about your work. So make sure that that work is included in the portfolio. And definitely arrange your materials in the order you want the panel to review. And clearly describe your work in the application form when you upload your files. Include the textile description, characters, production, and producer, whatever is related, so that we understand the full picture of what your work is. That's number 3, kind of big item. And number 4, we are asking for 2 recommendations. You are asked to have 2 recommendations submitted to TCG directly on your behalf. So the recommenders should be familiar with your work and must be available to submit the recommendations through TCG online portal by the deadline, which is the same deadline, December 1st. Note that you are responsible for sharing the instructions with your recommenders. There's a set of instructions so that you can just copy and paste and give it to them so they know what to do. It is also important to provide your full name as written on the application form to your recommenders. And number 5, support from an academic advisor. So you are also required to identify an academic advisor at your college, university, or a training program who is in support of your proposed scholarship activities and can support you in balancing your scholarship activities and required curriculum at your home institution. Note that the academic advisor will not need to submit a recommendation. It's not a long whole recommendation thing. They will only need to quickly confirm their support on TCG online portal. And again, you are responsible for sharing the instructions with your academic advisor. And again, it's also important to provide your full name as written on the application form to your academic advisor. For easy access, the online portals are basically a Google form. As I mentioned earlier, there are 8 narrative questions to which you can respond in 2 formats. So you can respond as an audio or video recording, Amelia mentioned earlier. So say you got a question and you can go on Zoom and record yourself, or you can record yourself just an audio from your phone or whatever device you have, and you can record that way. You can respond that way. Or if you're more of a word person, you can respond as a text submission as well. So you can change the format for each narrative question. So say question 1, you respond in audio, question 2, you respond as text, and question 3, you respond as video, whatever you like. There's no limit to that. Actually, there is limit. There is time limit and word limit, which are listed on the application form. So that's the only limits you have. And after you review and submit the application, you will receive a confirmation email. Please make sure to save this email as proof of application. If you do not receive it within an hour, that's not right. So please contact me at rgongseng@tcg.org. My contact is available at the end of this session and also on the website. So speaking of contact, I'll pass it on to Amelia.
Sure, Big. You know, and folks who are considering applying, I would really encourage you to dream big, dream big, to think about the kind of training, the kinds of classes, the kinds of experiences that you would love to have that you wouldn't normally be able to do, that aren't already part of your curriculum. So maybe there's an incredible training program that is in Italy or that is in Egypt that you've heard about, that's at a museum or whatever it is. Travel support is possible, you know, with the scholarship funds. There are other folks who've been recipients who really decided that in addition to their hand drawing skills, they wanted to really more deeply improve their CAD skills, their computer assisted drawing skills. So they took classes and were able to buy an iPad Pro that they would be using to communicate with their directors. So I would encourage you to dream big and think about what all the possibilities might be. And certainly that's something that you can toss around a bit with your advisor, whether it's your formal advisor at your academic institution, or it could be a friend or colleague who's working in the field. Big, I'm just going to pause here to see if we've got any questions coming in or any other comments or thoughts.
Yes, we do have one question. I think we can take the slide down now, right? Yes, thank you. So there's a question in chat. Thank you for that. So in terms of one project, is that narrowed down one piece of art or rendering or all the work on one production, which could include many renderings and analysis?
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of your call. I think the selection panel is going to be looking again to try to get to know your artistic vision as much as possible. So let's say if it is around one particular production that you're choosing to do, you could show, you know, some of the resource and the source material, what's inspiring you in this direction, through the initial sketches to whatever swatches you might have, fabric swatches, to how it ended up looking in production. On the other hand, you may be somebody, an artist who not only does costume design in the more traditional format, but you may do crafting, and you're a fiber artist and you're doing knitting garments or experimenting with texture and fabrications by weaving. All of that would really be great to submit. I know it's a little hard to show that in a two-dimensional thing in some of our programs in the past. Certainly before the pandemic, we were able to have people send us their portfolios live, so we could get those fabric swatches, we could get the texture. So with that caveat, that is a two-dimensional form, I really encourage you to give the selection panel a broad view of who you are as an artist. I know that was a little long-winded, but I wanted to get a lot in there. Let's see, sorry, I'm flipping back and forth between the chat here, so.
Yes, there's one more question.
Mhm.
You can also feel free to turn on your microphone and voice that into the room as well if you like, or I can read it for you. That's not a problem. Reading's fine. Yeah. So
think,
yes, so
go ahead.
sorry. So the question is, do these projects have all have to be based on a production you have worked on as a designer, or can they be costume projects done through classes?
Yeah, at least one of the examples in your portfolio materials has to be fully produced. But otherwise you can submit paper projects or projects that are even you're dreaming outside of what's in your school curriculum, say if you're working with another theater company or group of artists. But something, you have to show something that has been fully realized, because very often the difference from the initial resource and kind of initial inspiration through the sketching and swatching and all of that ends up being very, very different in the real production.
Thank you. As long as it fully realized, doesn't matter if it's like a production in school or production outside of school, correct?
Correct, correct. It has to, the costume itself has to actually have been made.
Great. Let's see if there are any more questions. And definitely like no pressure to have a question right now. If you have more questions later on, I mean, if you have more questions now, they're all welcome. But if you have more questions later on, feel free to email us, email me at rgongseng@tcg.org. That's definitely on the website where you apply. So you would see that contact information there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the information is on the website and the guidelines. So don't feel that you have to madly have been taking notes through this, and you could rewatch this video, and you could on our site also take a look at some of the previous recipients in the program and what they've done. But we're certainly happy to talk through that with you about what you might propose and what you might be wanting to do on the fellowship, on the scholarship rather. Yeah. Are we good for now? Oh, I saw another question. A couple questions.
So, okay, so I'll read it to you. So the first one, there are two more actually. The first one, the third and fourth optional submissions, could those be more general art projects outside of theater, or do those also need to be costume centered? So this is the first question.
Yeah, they can definitely, that's why we had said that we're, looking at everything from embroidery to crafting to sculpture to photography, any other kind of artistic expression that you might have, with a caveat that you still will need to show your commitment to being a costume designer. And so you might want to give a little context as to why you're including those other materials in your portfolio.
Thank you. The next question is there any specific information needed in the resume or CV, or just the breadth of work you have done is good?
Yeah, I think we don't have a specific format, so you can feel free to do that. I think it's always useful and helpful, particularly if you're listing a play or a production that the selection panel may not be familiar with, to make sure that you note on there where it was done. Director also is very useful, whether it was a school project, whether it was a project outside of your institution. But there's no format per se that you have to adhere to.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for now? No pressure, of course. Yes, I would like to also add that, thank you for being here too. And if you can help spread the word to your circles, to your networks, that would be great too. Because we want to make sure we reach to the wider costume design student network here.
Really appreciate, I see some thanks there, and thank you all for joining. We hope that this has been helpful and put some human faces and energy to the guidelines that are written, which can often seem at a distance. Look forward to, how many applicants are chosen? Up to 3. And we have not necessarily had 3. And I will say in all frankness that the last round was right as we were going into the pandemic. So that created its own set of challenges for folks applying and envisioning whether or not they could travel. But yeah, it would be up to 3 in this round. So yeah, reach out if there's anything that we can help you with. Happy to do that. And if you want to check out any of TCG's other programs and services, then go to our website and hopefully our paths will cross again.
Thank you so
anything? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Omar, for helping us today as well.
Absolutely. And thank you, Big, too. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.
Thank you.